Lemurs are found only on Madagascar. Lemurs are tiny species of primate that are only found on one group of islands, Madagascar and the Comoro Islands. This makes them one of most endangered groups of animals on Earth. They have tiny bodies with long, thin tails. There are over 100 species of living on the islands. Their scientific name means ghost, or spirit of the dead, due to their white faces and large, round eyes. In the past, these creatures may have floated to Madagascar on rafts of vegetation. There are over 100 species of lemur on Madagascar and the surrounding islands, including the grey mouse and the ring-tailed lemur. The ii is a unique species that uses its long middle finger to pry grubs and worms from the inside of trees. Lemurs are one of the few species of animal to live in a matriarchal society, with one female leading the troop. A small species of primate, lemurs are animals that can grow to be about 3 inches to 28 inches long, excluding their tails, and weigh anywhere from less than a pound to 22 pounds. Their tails can be much longer than their bodies, and on average, they weigh about as much as a cat. Lemurs are fox-like animals with narrow faces. They have pointed ears and a small, moist nose. Their fingers are adapted for gripping trees and fruit, and their sharp claws help them climb trees. Some have longer hind legs, built for jumping from branch to branch. Unlike other monkey species, lemurs do not have prehensile tails. They vary greatly in appearance. Their fur can be gray, brown, or black. They can be solid-colored, or have features like ringed tails or white patterns. By far the most recognizable species is the ring-tailed lemur. Named for its ringed black and white tail, these lemurs have black skin, wide brown eyes, and gray coats. The lesser mouse lemur, or gray mouse lemur, has reddish-gray fur and, as the name suggests, looks a bit like a mouse. The lesser mouse lemur is one of the smallest lemur species. One very unique species of lemur, called the ii, is a small brown creature known for its orb-like eyes and long, prehensile middle finger. It uses this finger to dig grubs out of holes in trees and branches. These creatures spend most of their days flying through the trees, on the lookout for food. They live in groups called troops. These groups can be as small as 6 animals, or as large as 30. The group constantly looks out for its members, and they use alarm calls to alert each other to danger. These calls can vary depending on the species. Some calls sound cat-like, ring-tailed. Some sound like chirps, mouse, and some sound like grunts, brown. These creatures are unique in that they live in a matriarchal society. One dominant female typically leads a group. She decides where the group sleeps and eats. These animals are better adapted for nocturnal life, which is the reason they have such large eyes. They sleep in nests made of leaves, or in the forks of trees. The ring-tailed species is unique among these primates because they are mostly ground dwellers. They are the only species known to have ringed tails, which they use for communication. A tail held high can alert others to danger, even in the dense woodlands. They also mark their territory using scratches on trees, as well as by scent marking the area. Madagascar and the islands around it are a very isolated place, meaning the species there evolved without outside influence. It is said that lemurs may have floated to Madagascar from the mainland and evolved there. Madagascar is an island with a great amount of biodiversity, and made different habitats for these creatures to inhabit. Some areas are marshy, others are dry. Some are mountainous, and others are forested. Generally, they prefer to live in the trees. But each species evolved specifically to fit in the niche of its habitat on Madagascar and the Comoro Islands. Larger species are generally herbivores. They prefer leaves, fruit, flowers, bark and tree sap. Smaller species become more omnivorous, chowing down on insects as well as fruit and leaves. Sometimes, they even decide to eat bird eggs or small birds themselves. Madagascar's top predator is the fossa, a mongoose relative that preys on many different species that live on the island. In addition, lemurs can fall prey to flying harrier hawks and boa constrictors as well. Habitat loss is an enormous threat to every species on Madagascar, and the lemur is no exception. Illegal deforestation and mining have threatened lemur species, with 17 having gone extinct since humans arrived on Madagascar over 2,000 years ago. Hunting is also hurting these populations. Invasive species like dogs and cats, which humans brought with them to Madagascar, are also a threat and generally disrupt the fragile ecosystem of the island. Males will scent mark and quarrel over females during the mating season. In some species, females are fertile for only 1 day out of the entire year. Most only produce 1 baby per season, but some litters can be as large as 6 young. Most gestation periods last between 2 and 5 months. Young lemurs are known as pups, and typically cling to their mothers for the first few weeks of life. In some species, such as lesser mouse lemurs, the babies are not strong enough to hold on and must be carried around. Soon, the pups climb from the belly to the back. After 3 to 4 months, the pups are able to walk and climb by themselves and no longer need to hold on to their mothers. Some species take a different approach. For the first month, mothers hide their young in large piles of foliage while they go forage. This allows the young to stay hidden. Once the first month of life is over, the young become too curious and active to stay put. Lemurs are typically done growing after they reach 1.5 years of age. Some can live as old as 30 years, but this varies depending on the species. Populations vary wildly between species depending on their conservation status. One species, known as the northern sportive lemur, is estimated to only have 18 living individuals remaining. Only 8% of lemurs are classified as least concern. All other species have experienced population decline due to the multiple threats to the biodiversity of Madagascar.